total access at the NAB AFL Draft Combine. It's day 4 and the testing's about to finish for these 100 draft hopefuls. We've got another big program on total access. Joel Wilkinson, who has sizzled throughout the Combine week, will be joining us, as will the gun recruiting manager of the Gold Coast Suns, Scott Clayton. And joining me is Paul Daffey, who is going to be doing his top 10 draft selections later on in the program. Looking forward to that, Paul. And also Kevin Sheehan from the AFL to take us through the final program of total access. And Kevin, we'll get straight into it. Today's testing, it completes a very rigorous week for the boys, doesn't it? The 3K time trial.
It's been a big week. We've had a few interviews earlier this morning to complete that, but the tired and weary bodies headed up to the athletics track this afternoon for what is, I suppose, a great test of your endurance, but it's mental toughness too, to see if you can't impress with the final, I suppose, event on the Combine agenda for this particular year. Let's take a look at the schedule today, just to round off the 4 days of the Combine. It's a simple one today, isn't it? A couple of club interviews in the morning, which the boys have been doing all day, and the fitness assessment with the 3K time trial. There couldn't be a tougher, I suppose, task there, Kevin, to round off 4 days of testing.
But why wouldn't you want to get to the athletics track here at the AIS and show your ability? And that's what the boys certainly did this afternoon. They showed that there's some eliteness amongst them, and there's no doubt that it would have won the hearts and minds of a few of the clubs that have said, is he tough enough to actually make the grade in the AFL?
We just recap a little bit throughout the 4 days in this particular total access program, and we'll go back to the sprint results with the 20 metres there. As we saw, Brad Harvey initially broke the long-standing record when he ran 2:78 for the 20 metres, but then Joel Wilkinson, the man we'll speak to, or the boy we'll speak to shortly, then broke it again with 2:75. Kevin, these are crucial results, aren't they, for the recruiters?
If you go back and compare it to some of the current players, Stephen Hill, we've seen him unfold to be a young rising champion in the AFL, was a 2.83. So these guys at the top end, Brad Harvey, Joel Wilkinson, are quicker than Stephen Hill. So the clubs, if you're that elite, the clubs will go back and really study your footy form for the year. They've got vision of these guys playing right throughout the footy season, but that's a cue to say you got something very, very special. And to be the best, Joel, the best sprinter ever in 17 years, the quickest man, you got something. That's your X factor. That's your trick. That's enough for a club to say, we've got to get this guy.
Paul, you've taken a close look at the kids throughout the week. Joel Wilkinson went in with good raps, didn't he, athletically? Has he impressed even the people who knew he was going to have a big week?
Oh yes, I'd say he did. He seemed to come to the Combine quite confident about what he would do, and everyone knew he was a former athlete, a former track athlete. But I think he's just the level to which he's been able to achieve has surprised many, I'd say.
And Brad Harvey's figures are very good, aren't they, across all testing?
He's clearly another great athlete, and again, he came in quite confident about what he could do. He's a halfback on the football side of things. He's probably got a bit of a way to go, but clubs will look at him now and he'll probably get drafted on the strength of what he's done this week.
Did pretty good numbers, and his footy was very good this year. Played for Vic Metro, for the Eastern Rangers, and of course at Yarra Valley Grammar School. So he's mixing with lots of different coaches there, and but there was enough to go with based on what I'd seen at the National Championships to say this bloke's a chance with that elite ability. I think gets in there for sure, Paul.
Kevin, I know all the 100 kids here are all your favourites, but I think just listening to you talk during the week, I reckon you've got a little soft spot for Josh Caddy.
Well, I think he's one, we call it tick all the boxes because there doesn't appear to be a fault here with this young man. So he's your footballer. He made All-Australian during the year after missing the first 2 games of Nationals. He went to South Australia, the Vic Metros played SA, and from the first bounce, he's got the first contested footy out. Victoria won that game against the more fancied South Australia. He was brilliant in that. He then 2 other brilliant games, All-Australian at the end of it, and has come here and tested magnificently, I think. So I think he's a no faults type safe bet. Love the size of him too. He crunches into the bodies. He loves the physical aspect of the game. So really liked his performance right throughout the Combine.
And Paul, the other guy that Kevin clearly has a little soft spot for is Andrew Gaff. We had him on Total Access on day 1. Spoke very, very well, but more importantly, the results he's produced in Combine have been noted, haven't they, by the recruiters? And he's going to go very high, isn't he?
Well, he was top 5 before this camp, but he might even go at number 4 with West Coast after this, because you cannot fault him on any level. He tests well in the endurance events, and he did quite well in the sprinting. He's not known to be a speedster, but he did quite well. And he's just a great, intelligent young man who would add to whichever club he goes to. But I'm tipping it's West Coast.
The spectrum of testing, Kevin, is varied, isn't it? And we saw the clean hands test this year and the kicking test that Nathan Buckley introduced last year. Agility versus, the ball skills. What are the recruiters mostly looking for, and what will they take out of this particular combine most?
Well, I think, Damian, the message is it's a jigsaw puzzle, because all the pieces eventually come together, but not everyone has got every piece of that puzzle. If you've got enough of something, you'll get there anyway. If you haven't got speed, I hope you've got endurance. If you've got great speed, you need to have fairly clean hands. You might well play outside. If you've got clean hands and kick well, there's a spot for you. So there's not everyone's the same. There's very few Chris Judds in the world that appear to have most of the attributes. But so the clubs will go away. They've got an enormous amount of data now, and they'll go away and just go through every player and spend an hour on each and really analyse the numbers. And the numbers, they're percentile ranked. You get unbelievable details. You can say he's in the top 10% or the top 20% in a particular area athletically. You'll then go back to the vision of them playing. You've got all the stats there on their efficiency rates when they've got the footy in their hands. So there's just so much detail to go over. Then eventually you've got to make a call on who's better than who and get ready for the draft on the 18th of November.
Strangely enough, there wasn't a clean hands test until this particular combine. It seems strange to some people who aren't as closely involved with the week as you two guys are. But was that a good initiative this year to bring that in? I mean, I'm assuming it should have been brought in years ago, surely.
It was fantastic, and I suppose we'll continue to refine our combine to make sure that we're catering for all of the needs of the clubs. We had made these judgments within matches only, but I think we need to send a strong message through the combine to every kid out there aspiring to get into the AFL that you need to be clean with the footy in your hands, neat with your disposal, and also kick accurately. And I think that's the strong message, because we're going to test you on it. You'll actually work hard to become very, very good at it. So that's the message of the last couple of years, and it's the learnings of getting people like Nathan Buckley and Matthew Lloyd involved in our programs.
And on the AFL calendar now, we've just completed Combine week, so we've got trade week next week, haven't we? Another key dates coming up, Paul. Draft nominations closing on Friday, 5 November, followed by the big day for these kids.
Yes, on November the 18th at the Gold Coast. All the kids will be nervous, of course, but they've got a small taste for what's going on this week, whereby all coming together. They're all wearing the black Under Armour gear, so there's a sense that they're all together. They must feel a part of something large. And then on Tuesday the 7th of November, you've got the rookie draft, where a few who missed out in the national draft will hope to get a second chance.
Well, guys, we're going to speak to the 18-year-old, nearly 19-year-old Joel Wilkinson, who has just burnt, hasn't he, all week in all testing. So he's going to come up next. This is Total Access at the NAB AFL Draft Combine. Gold Coast recruiter Scott Clayton will also be joining us on the program today. And for all your draft news, afl.com.au. Also tune into the big footy channel on Big Pond TV, 5:30pm Australian Eastern Standard Time, and also 9pm again. Total Access from the AIS in Canberra.